Over time, I realized I wasn't overwhelmed because I didn't know enough. I was overwhelmed because I didn't know what actually mattered. And we're gonna jump into this. If you know, you know, patience mattered. Patience is a virtue. Patience, is something outside of the log journey that we all must practice at some point or another. And again, what actually mattered in my log journey and what didn't in my log journey is what we're going to discuss today. Hi, how are you? So, again, I realized I was overwhelmed because I didn't know enough. I wasn't really overwhelmed because I was worrying about the right things. So now that I'm 5 years in, is a big difference. And I realized that patience is something that you have to have it. If you don't have it, you will learn it. I guess you will teach yourself patience, I guess, because you cannot control this life journey. There's nothing you can do to control how fast, how soon X, Y, and Z is gonna happen. And if you're not a patient person, you're gonna learn how to have that patience. And it's gonna be the roughest, toughest part of the entire journey because that's the point where it's like you say, I have no control. I give up. You must release all control and let it do what it do. You cannot control this journey at all. So learning to have patience is something that really, really matters all the time. Even in the middle and the end. Sorry. Having patience is really, really important. If you don't have patience, you're gonna have a horrible journey. You're gonna be unsuccessful. You're gonna be irritated, distracted, frustrated the entire time. You really are. So, patience. What I didn't know then and what I know now is patience. Patience was a big, big key. As I've said previously in other live videos, avoiding outside noise, avoiding knowing when to avoid people telling you what to do. And if it was me and couldn't be me, never could be me, or if I was you, learning just to avoid all of that, even when you see people that do have dreadlocks or have had dreadlocks or may be a stylist or something like that, like knowing when to avoid that noise. Again, if that person is coming from a bitter, angry place or a negative place, you cannot receive that information. So just knowing when to turn out that noise. Again, it could be not even a stylist, a friend, a relative, a coworker, telling you, I don't think that's gonna be cute for you. I don't think you can pull that off. I don't think you'll look good with that. It can come from any way, shape, or color, like any industry, any environment, it's not just one or two or three sprinkles of negativity. It can come from anywhere. So just know that avoiding that outside noise was so big and so key for me because as I've told y'all, I was very insecure in my life, regardless of dreads, despite dreads, body weight, how I look, physical appearance. That's been me for a very long time, but I'm happy to say I've evolved, and I'm a different person now. But again, it can be the people closest to you that will get in your ear and get in your head and will deter you from doing something because they probably don't want you to, be at your fullest potential or look great or look awesome or they're jealous of you. You never know what the situations may be, but sometimes we have people in our life that will really deter us and discourage us from doing things because they want to do it or it's their dream or their passion and they don't want you to have it, so they'll discourage you from doing something, even if something as small as getting dreadlocks. You'll have people to say, oh, it's gonna not gonna look nice on you. It is gonna look nice on you. They're hating. Avoid that outside noise. That's what I mean, that part right there. And the next thing I want to talk about, in this situation is too, like the last thing, I'm gonna give you three is your mental confidence in this lock journey. Again, I feel like everyone who wants to join a lock journey, you have to be mentally confident and solid and sane in your own mental and why you're doing it and why you want it. And it it can be a trend thing, but if I was you, I'll be super confident in the journey because there's going to be a lot of people in your face, in your ear, in your business telling you what to do, what not to do. So being super confident is a really big factor. Knowing you're ready to take on this journey live, knowing that you want this journey, knowing that you're ready for the ups and downs of the journey, knowing that you're gonna guard and not hear outside noise, All of those things definitely matter. Like you gotta have tough skin for this. Just like people that go loose natural, you gotta have tough skin for that. You gotta be ready for the negative comments and negative feedback, the weird stares, the awkward looks, the presence, the ego. You gotta be ready for all of that. That's a real, real big thing. But you know, like this is for the best of these people. This is for the best of everyone. Moving on, I want to get to this part where I talk about my obsession. Some of you people that know me here on YouTube, you know me personally in real life. You may follow me on Instagram, or TikTok, or Facebook, and you see on my platforms, all I do is talk about my hair, my hair, my hair. I don't really share and talk about a lot of personal business, personal tea. Everything's just my hair, my hair, my hair. So when I say that, I want to just talk about my obsession phase. I definitely went through an obsession phase. Shout out to the new sub. Thank you. I went through an obsession phase where all I wanted to do was make sure my locks look beautiful 24/7, 365. Even if that meant neglecting my lifestyle of fitness, even if that meant, not, being active as I normally be, or, not doing things I really wanted to do. There was a time I neglected my lifestyle for my hair, because I felt like I was going to slow the journey down if I, was my regular self, being super active in the gym, running around, being a mom, hanging out with friends. I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna do any of that until my locks physically, lock up. That was self sabotage. That was crazy. But I had pictures on Instagram of every time I wash my hair, time I got a conditioner or professional twist, my own twist. Anytime I try to do anything special to my own hair, I would have a video and a description and a live and a short and a whole conversation on Instagram and YouTube. I would document it in my notes in my iPhone every time I watched the specific date, the time, how many locks I had, obsessed. I was my own stalker. I was my own locked hair stalker. Are you guys locked hair stalkers? Are you guys stalking your own locks, watching every little specific candid, moment of everything new? That was definitely me. I was definitely a stalker. And I will put countdowns to my next anniversaries when I'll be 13 months locks, 14-month locks, 25 months locks, 36-month locks. Sorry. I really had like, a whole obsession phase. And it was bad because I feel like at times I lost people following me because they're like, oh my God, all she talks about is her hair. But that's all I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to talk about anything else because people are nosy ASF. They want to be all in your life. Who's your husband, wife, children, teacher, where you work, what you do, how you get your money. People get real obsessive with your life. So I choose specifically to talk and show one thing on social media. My dreadlocks. That's me. But yeah, the obsession phase was horrible because it definitely got me tunnel vision and narrow minded to not thinking about anything else important in life. So the obsession phase was bad. So if you're having an obsession phase right now, it happens. Don't get stuck in it, would be my advice to you. Snap out of it, get distractions, so you don't look like you're insane in the membrane. Insane in the brain. Showing my age right now. But yeah, that was a big, big deal for me, the obsession phase. Even my stylist had to tell me, girl, stop counting the days, stop taking pictures of the weeks and months of nothing happening. I'm like, but I don't want to miss anything. In hindsight, it goes fast and you do miss a lot of those things. So take lots of pictures and videos, but you know, obsessing didn't matter. Me obsessing on trying to get it perfect for when it gets perfect didn't matter. That was a mental issue of my own, letting outside noise and distraction, get me all twisted, looking at Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and believing everything I saw, like being very naive with it. So, that's that part. But to be really specific with you, moving on, once I got out of that rabbit hole, I dug myself out of that rabbit hole, I figured out, what worked for me, and what worked with me and for me was just knowing that, you can't control this journey. You're gonna have to be patient. Consistency is really important. Like without consistency, you're not going nowhere fast in this journey. So just realizing the things I couldn't control. I could not control time. I could not control what my life was gonna do on their own, outside of me doing my part. So I gave up on the page. I gave up on the, docking and critiquing every moment, second, and hour. I gave up on that, and I just became patient as I could. When I say I became patient as I could, I lived and I learned. I had experiences. I tried different things, and I took every day as a new day, and didn't compare the yesterday to the following day to the previous day. That's what I did, and I put my energy on being creative. doing my podcast videos about, things I was interested in, or, doing different things that keep me excited, and, took less eyes off of my hair, 25 of 24 or 23 hours less than I was previously doing. Like, I just walked away from the light. I walked away like, okay, this is not healthy, Cashel. You can't do this. Like, you're becoming crazy. Like, yeah. So that was that. Moving on, is, I also found a routine. I found the day of the week or the month that worked good for me to wash my hair, to do my conditioners, my oils. I tried my best to be consistent with that, even if I was late doing it. I found ways to, jump in and do my own DIY washing styles, so I was able to go to the professional stylist. When I wasn't able to go to professional stylist, I made sure, I kept a routine where I did separations, where I did conditioners, or whatever I needed, whatever TLC I needed for my hair. I made a routine out of it and made sure monthly, like, I was hitting these marks of how many times my conditioning, doing deep treatments, doing leave-in treatments, washing, not washing, dry washing, separating. Like, I made a little chart for me, so, or a mental note for me of when to do these things, what products I needed, was I going on Amazon, was I buying it locally? Like, I made a whole little, cart for myself, chart for myself, cheat sheet for myself, just to be consistent and not mess up on the journey. And it actually worked for me. It really did work for me. Have you guys done that before? Did you find a schedule, that you do your hair, or buy your products? Did that work for you? Did it not work for you? Did you keep a mental note of it? Some people got to see things written down, and mental notes aren't, helpful for them. So for me, when it comes to something overwhelming, I need to write it down. But something simple, I keep a mental note. So, to each is all. It depends on, how, you may be looking at it, so to say. Um, Moving forward to, again, always tying in everything in the cycle of not listening to outside noise, being confident, finding a routine, appreciating, loving on your journey, and, being consistent the entire way. I realized, emotionally, I was switching lanes and jumping in and out of different, experiences and levels of, how I felt about myself, my hair, my spirituality, my emotions, my physical. And it's like I had a little shift, and the emotional shift for me was more like, I really love the new look I have. I really love, the way it, I'm seen in public with my locks compared to other hairstyles I've had. Even becoming a little bit spiritual, within myself. I'm not a religious person, just becoming a little bit more spiritual in the journey, just wanting to do the research on the ancestry and the DNA, just wanting to know more, having a different outlook and perspective on life in general outside of my hair, being in like another chapter of my life. I feel like the life journey, kind of came to me at a pivotal point in my life where, I'm in a different stage and age in my life where, I'm on a next level. I'm on another level right now, because I'm at a different age and stage in my life, so it all kind of synchronized in its own way and made sense, but the emotion shift has been enlightening for me because, I feel different. I see things different, I try to, do things differently, and I definitely try to surround myself with people. Hey, introvert. I definitely try to surround myself with people who I feel like are like-minded to me, and, also more advanced than me, so I can learn at the same time. And I say that, for my lock journey, and any other journey I'm on, because that's how you learn when you around people that know more. You put yourself in those rooms where, you get exposed to things that you don't normally get exposed to. And just last night, I was at a friend's house, a neighbor's house, celebrating with her for her birthday, and I met a lot of people who had locks. Some people had locks that were way longer than mine, much more shorter than mine. Some people had thicker locks, skinnier locks. Everyone in the room was about 18 to 19 to 20 people in the room. Half the people in the room had dreadlocks, and everyone's dreadlocks looked totally different. Some people were just starting out; they had baby locks. Some people had starter locks. Some people had, really thick locks, really thin locks. It was such a beautiful culture and room to be in, outside of just the regular day of life when, sometimes I'm the only person in the room with locks, so it was a really nice atmosphere, met some new friends. And I say all that to say that everyone in that room is on a different experience and level with their lock journey. And none of us were comparing ourselves to each other. We all were just vibing out, having a great time. None of us was thinking about or considering like, oh, his locks or her locks look better than mine. Like no one had that moment, Possibly psychologically, maybe someone did, but I doubt it. I feel like no one ever looked at each other and said, "I want her locks," or "I want his." Like, no, we don't do that kind of thing. So, just being on that emotional shit where you just appreciate, you love on yourself more, you just have more confidence in yourself, and you just know like this is for you. The same way some men just may go bald and have a head full of hair, and then in their 40s or 50s or late 30s and through 60s, they're just rocking a bald head. But in their 20s and teens and youth, they had a head full of curly hair, but they decided to just go bald. It's just the same way, like, they embrace it. They don't care about what friends are laughing about them by going bald, whether they needed to go bald or they did not. It's a choice they make for themselves. The same way some men, may not go bald, and have a head full of hair, whether that's a ponytail or braids or leaving it wild and curly and getting it conditioned. They may wear that into their senior citizen ages. Have that long flowing gray silver, bronze looking color hair. And they don't want to cut it. They don't want to, trim it. They don't want to do nothing to it. It's their mane. It's been with them for so many decades. They're serious about it. They don't want people touching it, possibly, and it's their lifeline. They look at their hair as, I've had this hair since I was a kid. You know, some people, they're just ready to do something different, whether it be going bald, getting dreadlocks, they'll do something different. But that takes me to self-love. I feel like self-love is a big part of the journey. Like you have to love yourself from within, then people around you will love you. So I feel like people can sense that confident woman or man in the room. People can sense that person who is confident with themselves at the job versus the people that are shallow and insecure about themselves at the job. Like it's seen on your face. Sorry for my mic. Like people can sense that, people can feel that energy. So it's something like, just how a dog can sniff out a person scared of them. Like people can sense that energy, so they just know, like, okay, this is a strong, confident man or woman right here. Versus that person ain't ish. You know what I mean? But I say all that to say, that self love is important. If you're an insecure person, or you're not sure of yourself, or you're wishy washy, or you're moody, and you're not, confident 24/7, quote unquote, so to say, or always, approachable, or always, thinking 5, 10 steps ahead, and you're just a flow with the motion kind of person, that's cool. But at the same time, I feel like everyone hits a part of their life where they feel like, they're just on another level, another journey to do something more, to do something different, to achieve something they haven't done in the past, whether it's their ancestors didn't achieve it, their parents didn't achieve it. Like we all hit different levels in life where we take life more seriously and we're doing different things. And when we're doing those different things, we're trying to be the best version of ourselves. And some people may think about it as a money situation, it could be a hair situation, it could be a gaming situation, it could be a entrepreneurship, it can be a leadership, it can be so many different industries. There's so many different things when I say this. But for me, the emotional shift was just having that mind control, that beauty is within. No hairstyle can make me look unbeautiful or more beautiful. It's all about how I see myself, the energy and aura I represent when I show up in a room. It's about that, and it's not about, oh, her hair looks nice today or that color looks nice on her. It's about the confidence I bring, I give. Same way as the confidence you guys bring and you give. Like it's all about that. It's not about, who's the best dresses, who's owning the room, who's owning their look, who's owning their style, who's owning their legacy, who's owning their grades, who's owning their circumstances, who's owning accountability, who's owning responsibility. It's all about owning it, and once you're owning it, that self-control, that discipline, that motivation, that confidence, it's a different ball game, because at that point in the game, you're not, do I look cute? Do I look nice? Is this okay? You don't need an opinion. You don't need a validation. You don't need a comfort. You don't need a confirmation. You don't need someone to, reinforce or re-engage you to do certain things. Like you don't need any of that, because you're already there. You're at that level where I know what I'm doing. I like this. I want this. I need this. I'm doing this. This is my craft. Whatever, whatever, whatever. And I say all that to say, your girl is there. I'm at the part in my journey where I feel like this is the final look for me, probably till death. I'll have locks, like I don't see me cutting these locks out. Like I'm finally at the point where my mental, my emotional, my physical is all on the same lane together, to the point where I am at the most confident I've ever been, in my life journey ever, and it's not because my hair is longer now, it's because, I feel like it all synchronized, together. I feel like it fits me. I like the look. I'm confident with it. It doesn't require too much of my attention or money. And I just am still excited to see, more progress where I'm gonna go with this journey. Just like you guys out there probably doing the same thing. Like, how far are you gonna go on your journey? Like, are you gonna go down to the floor with your journey? Like, how far are you gonna go with your journey? And maybe some of you guys aren't going that far with your journey. Maybe you guys are just experimenting. This is the trend for you right now, and this is not something that you see long term, but it's something you just see because right now you just don't feel like dealing with your hair, whatever the case is. I don't know if each is own, for me, that was how I started, why I started. I just was over my hair, but you guys may have different reasons why you may be starting your journey or, having issues with your journey or not understanding certain things about your journey. But that's also why I'm here as well too, because I feel like I've been through some things, not everything. I know there's people out there that know more than me, but that's not what we're talking about right now. What we're talking about right now is pretty much understanding, interference and maintenance, like the question regarding, doing too much, touching too much, why are you seeing things not happening the way you want to? Why are you having issues you don't see other people having? Or why are you having issues when you think you're doing things wrong, right? You don't see what you're doing wrong. Like, that's what we're here to discuss pretty much at this point, and if you're seeing any issues at all, wrong, it probably has a lot to do with the fact that, you're not doing something enough, you're not doing something at all, or you're doing something too much, or, you need structure. You need a format. You need a schedule. You need a way to make it make sense for you so your hair knows the schedule is going on, so your hair knows what it's doing, so your hair's not confused about what's going on here. So when your hair is confused, your hair starts reaction doing stuff you don't want it to do. So you need to be able to, like, create balance for your head, where you create balance for your life, where you create balance for your family, where you create balance for your checkings and your savings account. You need to create balance for your hair. You need to create a scheduled time, and TLC to pay it attention and not let it pay attention to you. When it's paying attention to you, it's doing things that you can't control and it's too late now. So again, those situations we may all go through are all fixable. They're all learning experiences. I feel like there's things that we can all fix to it, but when you're not taking time to understand your locks and your hair and what it's doing, what it's not doing, and you see just things happening, it's because you're just not paying attention. So maintenance versus interference. Maintenance and interference look like the same thing to somebody who's not paying attention. Maintenance means it's a scheduled routine, it's consistent, it's not urgent, it's planned, it's something that you're dedicating time to do, it's not spontaneous, it's something that's a part of the journey. Interference is spontaneous. It's it is a part of the journey, but not on the highest level. It's a clear sign that something's wrong. It's a clear sign that again, you mismanage how you're doing something, or you're not paying attention to your hair. So those are the things you really need to look out for, and they can look the same if you don't know anything, and you should definitely pay attention to the signs. At some point you may need a book to jot down, what's happening versus what should be happening, or I'm experiencing this, but I don't think this is right. At some point, you may need a book. Definitely may need a book. And that ties me into Cashel has dropped an ebook. If you know, you know. I have dropped an ebook on Amazon, KDP, also can be found on Gumroad. And my ebook is about what mattered and what didn't matter in my life journey. And this is for people who are necessarily not on the life journey, but people are thinking about going on the life journey and don't know where to start and have no idea, anything to ask for before they get into the stylish chair about beginning the lock journey. It's definitely for those people that are, on the fence, maybe used to hearing outside noise, maybe used to, being insecure, maybe used to, being indecisive and unsure of themselves. So if you may be that person, if you know someone who's that person, if you're curious about getting locked, if you think that uh maybe, then this book is for you. You can find the link to my description in my YouTube here, as well as on my other social medias as well. So the book is out now on Amazon. It's about what mattered versus what didn't matter in my life journey. You can find that Amazon KDP book online. You can also find it on Gumroad. And I say all those things to say that do your research. Find the time to dive deep in research and see, how locks may benefit you. Do you have the proper hair texture for locks, or how the hair texture you have may slow down or supersede your lock journey? Trying to find out if you can find a lock stylist in your neighborhood or a stylist in your neighborhood that can do the lock style. Trying to find out the variations in cost in your city, state, or borough where you can actually get your hair done. Find out what the maintenance looks like as far as finding a regular loctician in your area. And also, talk to yourself about why you want to do it. Are you doing it for trendy reasons? Are you doing it because you don't want to do your hair? Do you feel like this is where you need to be? Do you feel like internally like this is something that you just really, really love? Or is it just something you're curious about? If you're curious about it, you can get, crochet locks, which is kind of like locks, but not locks. You can get a lock wig online, Amazon, Alibaba, Sammy's Wigs, or your local neighborhood beauty supply store. You can get these fake wigs. They're cheaper online, more expensive in person. But there's ways to get this experience without going full in. But if you try this experience and you get a temporary style such as a crochet, lock hairstyle, or you actually buy a lock wig and you like it, then that may mean you may need to be on a journey. And if you may need to be on a journey, then that means this may be for you. And if you think this may be for you, getting that ebook will be for you as well because it's all the things you may want to know about, what kind of how do I start? What do I need to know? What do I need to buy? Who do I go to? What do I do when this happens, when that happens? What's normal, what's versus what's not normal. Like all those things are in the book. And again, these are people that are thinking about getting locked, they're not sure, they're on the fence. I think you'll definitely like this. But enough about that ebook, because that's all in the description of my details of my video today. I want you guys to leave this conversation knowing that locks are not for everybody. With some people it's a lot easier to, accomplish and fulfill the journey. Some other people it's a lot harder. Texture does matter. Consistency matters and patience does matter. And sometimes we real like we just don't have it. Again, some of these things can't be learned. You have to be taught them. And yeah, patience is taught. Everyone doesn't wake up with patience. It can be really overwhelming and stressful when you can't, see the journey, with the naked eye. But again, it goes that quick. It really, really goes that quick. Before you know it, you're fully locked, and it's too late to go back and change how you want the size to look of your lock, the size of your looks. Let me go back with that. You can change the sizes of your lock depending on how small you started out. If you started out really small, certain things you change, like making them bigger. But if you start out really big, you can't go smaller really. Just it's just a science. The math is not gonna math. You get the point about that. And I still those things to say, this needs to be something you really can manage, you can really do, you want to do. And again, the signs of things going wrong in your life journey is pain. There should never be any pain in your life journey. There should never ever be any pain. Hear that? There should never ever be any pain in your life journey. You know, it should not hurt to touch your hair. Never, ever, 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 ever. You know, it should not be a time where you touch your hair and hair is just falling out as you touch it. Never, ever, 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 ever. There should never be a time where you can't even sleep because your head hurts or your hair hurts. You should never see locks all around the house falling out of your head on the floor. That's interference. Those are clear, keen signs of interference. Those things should never, ever happen. Ever. That is interference. Maintenance may look like you may see some little thin shedding of hair in your sink or your tub or on the floor if you were doing a wash or conditions or manipulating your locks. That's maintenance. That's normal. Your hair may feel tight or have some friction. If you put like a certain mask or conditioner on your head, sit under a blow dryer, may feel a little bit awkward, but it will never hurt. That's maintenance. That's the difference. So as I talk about these differences between maintenance and interference, I hope you guys at home who watch this in a real time or on a replay understand that one hurts a lot and one is super spontaneous and one is urgent to fix and has a lot of dramatic key flags you can physically see with your eyes. The other one, total opposite. There's not a lot of big red key flags that something is wrong. You may see a little sprinkle of this, a sprinkle of that, kind of normal. Nothing is hurting at all, maybe uncomfortable, the difference. And It's scheduled, it's formatted, it's structured, it's supported. It's maybe in your Outlook calendar at work, or your Gmail calendar on your phone, or on your physical calendar in your apartment. Maybe on a sticky note somewhere. It's something that you guys are doing consistently to the point where in advance, I need to buy more shampoo and conditioner. It's not urgent. It's not, spontaneous. It's not painful. It's not frustrating. It's the process. That's it. So hopefully by now you guys can see some difference between maintenance and interference. So there's no confusion between maintenance and interference. Um, Interference is dead on, spot on, noticeable, urgent, hurts, painful, makes you regret possibly having locks, and makes you probably regret the decision before what you did before you got to that point. Maintenance sounds plain, sounds structured, sounds safe, sounds like the good DIY, sounds like the best way to have a healthy lifestyle with dreadlocks, and sounds like something that you put your big boy pants on, your bigger panties on to do because you want to flourish in this life journey. That's the difference from my opinion. But you guys let me know in the chat. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And have you seen someone with interference issues on a life journey? Have you seen someone with maintenance routines on a life journey? Do you plan to do a maintenance routine on your life journey? Do you foresee any issues you may see about getting locks? Do you have any questions about getting locks? It's really interesting, to answer these questions if you're serious about the journey, because again, you don't want to do the journey because you feel like you see someone that looks cute. That's not a good enough reason to start your life journey. Me, I was tired of getting wash and sets. I was tired of going to Africans to get braids. I was tired of buying lace front synthetic wigs. I was tired of buying human hair lace front wigs. I was tired of looking for a style all the time, hopping around, spending hours on hours in a salon, paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars to people that I would never even want to be around them if it wasn't for their skill or craft or talent. That part. You know what I'm saying? So to me, call it lazy, call it maintenance, but that's my truth. That's my piece. Like I was tired of just doing the everyday hairstyles all the girls around me, all the women around me was doing. I wanted to stand out, step out, and look different. I didn't want to have to do my hair monthly like that. And now I don't. 5 years into the journey, approaching six. My 6 year anniversary is coming up June 1st, 2026. I'll be 6 years locked, guys. Can you believe that? Oh my god. I know. Um, but I'm definitely wrapping this up pretty soon. I hope you guys got some feedback from this. If you catch this in a replay or live, hope you guys got some feedback from this. If there's any questions you want to know about anything I'm talking about this live today, please leave me a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as I see it. Um, if you can, please share my video. I'm sure this video is for somebody out there in these streets. If you know, you know. And lastly, what I do want to say is, if you're in the middle of your log journey and feel unsure, that doesn't mean you're behind. It usually means you're paying attention. And paying attention is a good thing. Paying attention means that you probably won't go through any interference. You'll be prepared, ready to act, and be active on being able to provide a solution to your situation versus not being able to apply a solution to your situation. Then all of a sudden, you're looking worse than what you should. You guys heard anything here, just keep up the healthy maintenance you need on your life journey. Don't forget your routine, even if you forget a day or two, jump back on it. Make sure you always restock on all the shampoos and conditioners and oils and satin caps and bonnets and all the accessories you need. You like the rubber bands, make sure you have a lot of rubber bands, duckbill clips, do your own hair, the satin caps, short, medium, and long style. Satin pillowcases if possible. If you don't like the caps, that's always an option for you. Um, you know, be consistent with your routine with your stylist or your loctician if you have one. Try to keep those commitments. When you say you get your hair done, keep that commitment. Try to keep that schedule. Try not to break those schedules too much, because those are the moments when interference start happening. Oh, excuse me. Those are the moments where all of a sudden something dramatic and drastic happens that you didn't see beforehand. And again, I talk a lot about, what, the life journey is about in my new ebook, What Mattered and What Didn't Matter in My Life Journey. Again, it's available now on Amazon as well as Gumroad. And I'm really proud of this. The book post I came out a year ago, and I'm so excited. I feel like I have a few more books in me. Not sure if there'll be locked books or not, but I definitely want to, share more of my experience if it can help someone else out there. So again, check the description in my bio today for the Amazon and the Gumroad link. Amazon is a direct Kindle, Nook reader or electronic device kind of reader, and Gumroad you just physically download the PDF of the book. But thank you guys so much for all your support and love and appreciation. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you guys tonight. And that's all I got for you. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. And peace, y'all. Thank you guys for vibing out with me and rocking out with me. Have a great one and like, subscribe, you know the vibe. Peace, y'all, and have a good day.